I'm Dr. Carine of PurelyIntegrative.com. Today we're going to talk about a really important topic. How do we get our children to take their medicine and supplements? I mean, really, I'm a parent. I talk to parents all day long. There could possibly be not a more stressful topic. We sit down, we make an idea like, hey, let's try this for our kids' attention or our allergies or whatever. And then the dreaded, how do we do it once we get home? Oh my gosh, this is a topic that we spend so much time in our office about. And as we choose products within our office and within Purely Integrative, we always ask the question, well, what do you think your child will take? And how will we get them to take it? Because the best product means nothing if the kid never takes it. So I always say the best product is the one your child will take. It's a little bit more complicated than that, of course, right? There's so many layers, there's so many discussions, and in my mind, I think that we kind of have different groups of children that we work with. We have like the toddlers and preschool kids, we have the elementary school kids, we have the teenage kids, and they all kind of have a different take on why they're problematic to take things. Of course, we also have children with developmental delays, and that changes some of the topics as well, and that becomes a little bit more tailored to each child. But let's talk about the overarching thing. You know, never should the thing that we're doing for our family be worse than the original problem that we had. So sometimes I see this mistake families make where they read a lot, maybe they see a lot of practitioners, and they get these ideas, and they come back and they say, I'm going to have my kid take these 20 supplements, and they have to be spaced out 4 times a day and not mixed with this or with that. And they may be really excited about that routine and that plan for a month maybe, and then things get really hard. And the daily routine of life becomes harder and harder, and we start to erode in compliance with the original plan, and we end up to the point where what we're actually taking doesn't really matter as much because we're not doing it consistently. So we should always start out with a plan that we can do, and one that's simple and one that's easy. And that can sometimes be a little bit more work in the beginning, but maybe less work in the long run. So for instance, your child may really love taking their supplements in a smoothie. You make them a yummy smoothie, you throw the stuff in there, they can't taste them at all. They're like, this is awesome, Mom, I drank my smoothie. They're like, ha ha ha, I had your stuff in there. It's great, you tricked them, you got it in them. But you know what? Are you gonna wanna make that smoothie every day? Are you gonna be able to make that smoothie every day? What about on vacation? What about when grandma's watching them? What about when you oversleep and you're running out the door? What about when the freezer's out of the stuff you were going to make it with and now you got to run to the grocery store? There's a million reasons why that smoothie every single morning just may not work out that great. And so I really think that in the beginning it may seem like that's the most greatest way to get your kid to take that stuff. But in the long run, what I see is if we do something complicated, like kind of trick it into their tomato sauce or hide it under this or make it so they don't know I'm giving them a medicine, that becomes so cumbersome for the parent to carry out that we don't actually end up taking it every day. And the best medicine and supplements are the ones you actually take every day, the same way, in a manner that will help your kids. So let's talk about toddlers and preschoolers. You know, they're a lot of work. They run around, they got all this stuff going on. Their parents are oftentimes really tired. So back to that idea of routines becomes extremely important. So their busyness should mean that whatever you choose, it should be simple. Don't try to put your medicine in a whole bowl of applesauce that then you have to sit and argue with your 3-year-old about whether they ate all the applesauce. And you're like, oh, they're not gonna get half their medicine today. Nope. So if you think that they'll take it best in applesauce, then you should give it to them in like 2 bites of applesauce. And then when they're done with that 2 bites of applesauce, they can either have the rest of the bowl, or you could give them a cookie afterwards, or whatever it takes for you to get your kid to take the 2 bites of applesauce. But don't mix it in a whole bunch of something that you're gonna have to argue with your child to finish. That could be a teaspoon of something versus an entire glass. Don't mix it in a whole cup of juice that then you have to make sure they don't spill or lose or leave on the floor in their sippy cup and now you don't remember how much they took. Give them their medicine in very small quantities in a manner in which you can hand it to them and say, here's a bite. and then you can reward them for taking it. And then that makes it easier for you to do. For elementary school kids, my biggest thing I can tell a parent is work hard at swallowing pills. You know, everything's better when children swallow pills. I mean, I can't even tell you what a joyous day it was when my last child learned how to swallow pills. I mean, this was like hallelujah. As a matter of fact, I told him if he swallowed his pills for 5 days in a row, I would buy him a huge box of Legos. And my husband said to me, "That's a pretty generous bribe, Allie. I'm not sure about that." And I said it was the best present I ever bought myself. Because for a parent to hand your child some pills and they'll swallow it is a holiday compared to mixing and hiding and chewing and whatever. The other thing that's great about once they swallow pills is everything in pill form costs less, with a few exceptions, but pretty much they cost less. And the number of treatment options becomes bigger because some things, no matter what we do, just don't taste very good. So for instance, sometimes I give children valerian root to help them sleep, and I will tell you, you do not want to take valerian root in any way but a capsule if you can avoid it. It just doesn't taste very good. So until your child learns how to swallow pills, it becomes a non-available option for your children. So swallowing pills is big. So how do you get a child to swallow pills? That's the trick, right? Some of them will do it just because they want to. And those are our favorite, right? Those are our great. The kid who goes, "Hey mom, can I swallow this?" You're like, "Yes, you can. That's fantastic." But then there's all the other kids, right? Well, many hospitals have pill swallowing classes for their communities. There are private therapists that will work with your kid. But my little tricks kind of amass to a couple things. So there are some little pill swallowing cups and straws available on Amazon, really cheap. I always tell you, do not practice with medicine or supplements. You practice with candy. You practice with Tic Tacs, little M&Ms, something like that. And you let them practice with no stress. You say to them, which is what I say when I see them in the office, "You know what? Every adult swallows pills. You know why? Because it's better. You don't have to taste it. You don't have to chew it. You don't have to do anything. You just swallow your pills, you're done." So you and I'm telling you, it's going to be better once you learn how to swallow pills. I'm going to let you practice with Tic Tacs. I usually give them some sort of incentive, right? Legos for my son. And you say, when you swallow successfully multiple days in a row, and it can be candy, I'll let you have the incentive. So you let them stress-free practice. Maybe you're cooking dinner, you have the little candies there, you're like, "Hey, you want to practice today?" Because there's a lot of anxiety over the swallowing of the pills. So if you stand over them and give them too much instruction or something, then a lot of times it will interfere with their ability to do it. So get them swallowing pills. All right. Now, what about those pesky teenagers? I mean, parenting teenagers is not for the faint at heart. I mean, these kids, they want to be adults, but they're not really ready for being adults. They want some freedom and they want some say in their life, but they still aren't quite the best at making decisions. And so there's some couple rules about teenagers. First of all, do not fall into the trap of saying to your teenager, "I think you're old enough to be responsible to remember to take your own medicine." That is the kiss of death. That's just not going to happen. I mean, I've sat and taken care of the ICU children with diabetes who looked at their insulin bottle that day and said, "I just don't feel like taking my insulin today." And teenagers do really dumb things like that. Their frontal lobes aren't really working great yet, and they just don't do stuff. And whatever reason it is that they don't. So don't expect them to. You should help them remember to take their things in whatever way that is. Laying out a pill box, handing it to them. I personally think handing it to them is better. And saying, "Here, I want you to take this," and helping them remember. But the other thing about teenagers is they don't like getting bossed around. And so the absolute worst thing you can do for a child that's a teenager is argue a lot about things we would consider wellness. How many vitamins do they take a day? What kind of foods are they eating? These are issues that you really have to wean yourself away as a parent, because in a couple years they're going to be doing this all on their own. And what we don't want is to make it negative. So if you would like them to take 20 pills a day, they might say, "I'm not going to take any." And you might fight over your vitamins all day, every day. So what I do oftentimes in my office is I feel like teenagers should participate. So I sit down and I say, okay, what are you willing to do? Let's talk about that. I'll whittle their list down of what I think is most important for their conditions and their situation. And we'll say, I'm going to have you take those today. And mom and dad and kid and teen and doctor, we all work together to meet some sort of compromise. And it has to be a compromise the teenager feels comfortable with. And then you have to remember to take them. So you still have to remind them to take it. But what we don't want is we don't want them to have a negative connotation to wellness. We don't want them to think eating healthy or taking vitamins has this real negative fight with my parents thing that would make them want to not do it when you're not around. We want it to be a positive experience. So I would just want to wrap it up here and say, one of our biggest obstacles when taking care of children is making sure that our plan is one that works, one that everybody can do both financially and in the schedule of their day and in not arguing with their children too much. So when we're picking a product or a treatment plan, we want to keep those things in mind. And our staff here at Purely Integrative can totally help you do that. We have all of these things, but so many more of options within each of our major categories of supplements so that we can find the one that your child both likes to take and will remember to take, because the best supplement is the one that you actually take every day. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.